Hey, everybody, welcome to Rana's Radar. We're going to continue on with the podcast. It has been a while, but the car shows have kept me busy. Nonetheless, we're going to continue on. And today's guest is Eric Brockmeyer. Now, this is a name that has been known throughout the hot rodders for several years now, awarded as the trendsetter by Good Guys at the SEMA show several years back. Digital rendering is what Eric does. And I connected with him when I started working on my own project, and it was super helpful just to find out the ideas that I have in my head and how to get them on paper and what they would look like. So Eric has been super helpful. A lot of people know him. He has been linked with some very high end cars, award winners, Riddler Award winners, but let's hear it from him. Let's get Eric on here and get him to tell us a little bit about himself, his passion, and exactly what is involved when it comes to digital rendering of a car, project, truck, classic, whatever it may be, and how he can help us in getting our ideas onto the screen. All right, everybody, let's welcome Eric Brockmeyer. Eric, welcome to Rana's Radar. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're very welcome, Rana. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Honestly, I wanted to share with everybody my connection with you and how I came across you because I had no idea what digital rendering was.
Well, I would caution using the word digital rendering because we still do a lot of stuff by hand sometimes. Um, it's just a tool. We use it's a digital pen, and it is all digital. So, I mean, it's fair to call it digital rendering. But when I started, it was all markers and pastels and airbrush and paint, and so it's kind
And
of hard for
paint
me
as
to get up
well.
onto the other side of doing digital rendering. So, but
Well,
that's
you've been doing this for a while. Look, everybody knows the name. So when I started asking around, well, I didn't even ask around. I was like, I have no idea what I want to do with my truck.
yeah.
And they're like, well, you want to get Brockmeyer to do some rendering. And I'm like, rendering? And then there's people started filling in the gaps. He can visualize what you've got in your mind. So that really excited me because I had no idea. And I still have no idea, but we won't get into that.
That's okay.
But people know you, and Eric, you've been here for a long time. And I mean, one of the earliest stuff that I think got recognition was with Boyd Coddington in one of his renderings back in 2003. How did that start?
That was a funny deal. I was working at a boat company called Sea Ray Boats down here in Florida. I was in the design department. That's what my job was. And I would work in the evenings. I would do car renderings for the local hot rod shops and just local car guys. And then I met a guy, and I did some renderings for him for pretty high end build he was doing, and and he had some wheels being machined by Boyd Coddington at the time. This is like 2002 or 2001, 2002. And I guess he knew Boyd Coddington fairly well, and he showed Boyd the renderings I was doing for him and said, you need to get this guy working with you. And Boyd called me, and much to my surprise, and he actually had me do some things for him, and flew me out there, and I kind of became part of the team, or doing some regular work for him
Yeah.
for the last several years of his life, probably 5 or 6 years of his life. I was doing a lot of renderings for him, so
Wow.
I worked. It was just kind of a who kind of thing. It's just word of mouth.
Well, definitely. I mean, that's one way to start it. I mean, that was the right mouth to get
Yeah, I
your
mean,
name into, honestly.
but it was so strange because I was just getting started, and I felt like I wasn't ready for that really. I felt like all of a sudden I'm going from these little local guys. All of a sudden I've got Boyd Coddington. He's like the master legend hot rodder. Wanting me to do work for him. And so it's a little intimidating, but pretty
But
exciting.
you did it well. You did it well. You've been awarded as the trendsetter by Good Guys at the SEMA show, and that's huge, and it's very fitting because it is a trend. And do you think that before yourself, there was a lot of people who were doing the renderings? And what is the history? Or I guess for somebody like myself, I want to know is how did this start? Did people always start drawing on paper before they started their projects?
I don't think so. I think a lot of times, in the back in the day, but like so we'll say post computer, there was only a handful of people doing the illustrations, and they're at least the ones that were known, because back then it was just magazines, right? You didn't have internet and
Mhm.
stuff like that, so the magazines would come out, and you'd see the renderings of like upcoming projects from the big builders, and you'd see like a Chip Foose rendering or a Steve Stanford rendering, and those are the ones you looked up to, and it was all done by hand. And those are the ones you got excited about, and those were the big builds, and so you kind of aspired to be like that, and that's kind of how it all started. Because and then once the digital started, it seemed like once you had Photoshop and some of these other digital rendering softwares, all of a sudden there's just all kinds of designers,
Yes,
because it makes it a little easier. So, it's a big helping hand to have computer aided design sometimes. But
it
back
does
in
make
the day, it was just a
a bit.
few.
Well, the thing is, you have to know the cars to do what you are doing
Yeah,
because you often make custom classics and you are mixing and matching from different eras, from different models.
yeah.
What's your background when it comes to the hot rods?
It's funny. I mean, some of these guys you read, and it's like their fathers were hot rodders, and their fathers were hot rodders, and I come from no family of hot rodders. It just for some reason, I remember back when I was a kid, I just loved it. I remember when the hot rods would come into town. I remember being a kid and seeing them, and I'd light up, and I would go home and draw them, try to draw them, and so I don't know where it came from, but it's in me.
It's
I,
in you. It fell into it. It's a little bit like myself with no family
yeah,
background or ties to the hot rodding with. And I think in one way, like our passions, might be a little bit stronger than the ones who are born into the families of hot
yeah,
rodders because we haven't been exposed to it from an early age, but we've actually just fallen in love. And it
yeah.
sounds like you were the same.
Yeah, it really was, because when I was growing up, I didn't, it's not like my dad was out in the garage building hot rods and I learned all kinds of stuff. It was just me looking at magazines or just, well, that was it, magazines. We're building model cars, so yeah, you kind of have to learn on your own a little bit. And then
Well,
over the years, you kind of pick up a lot of stuff and you start learning what, and being able to identify years and makes and models. And so, yeah.
okay. Well, I want to share a picture here. Let's have a look. Let's start with this, Eric. Tell us about what's on the screen.
So I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I fell in love with the little Ramblers. I don't know why. I like the little car. I thought they'd make really cool hot rods. When I was growing up, when I was young, when I was growing up, it was the big thing in hot rodding was dare to be different. And I remember hot rod magazines and street rod. It's kind of like a big thing to be dare to be different. Do something different than a Camaro or a Corvette. And so I don't know, little Ramblers, they were kind of overlooked, kind of homely little things. And
Okay.
so I wanted to build one, and I found one locally from the original owner, and I kind of made it look like the one you see on the trailer there, just with just some simple lowering, cutting the springs, lowering blocks. Boyd gave me a set of wheels for it because I was working for Boyd at the time, and we, just had a real simple paint job. And a buddy of mine laid out some flames on it, and I got a custom rodder top 10 pick at Good Guys Columbus in 2004, and I probably
Wow.
had. I mean, literally, I probably had $3,000 in the car. No joke. No joke.
Nice.
I mean, I had Mako painted for like $500. I mean, it was crazy.
Well, I guess then now that comes down to is again is your vision and the
Yeah.
creativity behind it because you have to be creative for what you do.
Yes.
Um, Everybody can, anyone can learn to use the software, but when it comes to putting it together and making sure that
Yeah.
a project, a car is looking the way that's going to look nice and have the right stance, there is creativity involved.
Sure. Yeah. And then
So,
I think
did you
also,
study for this?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead. What was your question?
I said, did you study for this? Did you do arts? What kind of studies or background education, I guess, did you have for rendering?
I went to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, and I got an industrial design degree. Graduated in 1999, and that's how I got my job at the boat company in the design department.
Okay.
So I worked there from 99 to like 2003. So it was about 4 years working in boats. And I
So
learned a
you can
lot.
And boats as well? Do
Yeah,
you still design boats?
I don't know. Not unless somebody really pokes me and prods me pretty hard if they want to do a boat. I don't want to do any more boats.
Okay.
But I learned a lot. I mean, it was because you work on fiberglass. I learned a lot about how fiberglass molds and how fiberglass gets pulled and laying out all that stuff and production. And we had to work with interior a lot, so I learned a lot about if you send an interior drawing down to the upholsterers and they couldn't do it, you were in trouble. I mean, they came up and they were yelling at you. So had to learn how the seams come together and what can actually be upholstered, and so I learned a lot there actually.
And I guess that's my big fascination with the work that you do is because anyone can just draw a car, but you have to know the right dimensions. You have to know what works, what's going, because this is then going to the body shops,
Yeah.
and your name wouldn't be Eric Brockmeyer, and people would not know you if you were sending them drawings. That was just not possible.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays I think um, you got to be proportional. It may not be a scale drawing like down to the millimeter, but it has to be at least proportional. You have to understand proportions and what can be built, and so it can actually be made into reality. I mean, it's fun to do pie in the sky cartoon stuff that looks really crazy, but if it can't be built, it's a fun drawing, but that's all it is,
Exactly.
fun drawing. So, um, yeah, I've always tried really hard to make sure everything's really proportional and realistic, so that when it goes to whoever's fabricating or upholstering, that they don't have a million questions and have to change everything to make it work.
Yeah, kind of makes everybody's life a little bit
Yeah.
easier. Now, we're going to share some of the other work that you've done,
Okay.
including some of the first pictures that Eric sent to me after I gave him the original pictures of the 72. So we'll share with that. But before we do, let's have a look at the picture here on the screen. Now, this is your builder. Was it Mike?
His name is Matt Link. Uh,
Matt.
yeah, I've known him for a long time. Um, we took I built that little white Rambler, right? That was on the trailer, and I decided that I wanted to take it to another level, kind of like what you're doing with your C10. And it was way beyond my ability at that point. So I took it to Matt Link there, the guy in the purple shirt, and he stripped it completely down. And we did a whole custom chassis with Art Morrison on the front, and he did a lot of custom fabrication, and we put a big old Hemi in it, and I still have that car today. That was in 2011 there.
This is the Rambler that we just saw before, the white
Yep,
one on the trailer, and
it's
this
the
is
same
what
car.
it got transformed into.
Yep. So I have quite a history with this car now. It's almost 20 years with this car.
Wow, I would love to see it in person one day. Now, did you do a drawing for this?
I did. We did some renderings, and I remember going through exactly what you're going through on your C10. I did dozens of colors. I didn't know what color I was going to do. I mean, everybody struggles with colors, and me too. I was same thing.
It's such a coincidence that you've landed on a gold. Here's the final.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, but yeah, sometimes it works.
Sometimes it works.
Sometimes it
Well, I
works.
won't give too much away, but we will share some pictures of the 72. But this looks awesome, and the best thing is that it looks so different from the white Rambler we just saw.
Yeah, it's
It's
completely different. I mean, it's got. I mean, the white Rambler had little 17-inch wheels. This one has 20 by 10s on the back and 18 by 8s or 18 by 7s on the front. Much lower stance, much more aggressive. And,
much more aggressive,
yeah, yeah,
100%.
he's a bad little dude.
Bad little dude indeed. Now, let's have a look at some of the work that you've done for other people.
Okay.
Now, Bobby Alloway is the person who told me about yourself and connected me with you, and you did a fair bit of work for him as well.
Yeah, I've done a bunch of work. I mean, I've known him. I've been working for him because Boyd Coddington got me in touch with Bobby. That's how I got
Oh,
in touch with
okay.
Bobby.
Yep.
So then again, that goes back to the way back in the beginning. I'm just some nobody down in Florida doing some local stuff, and all of a sudden I got, Boyd Coddington and Bobby Alloway, and it's like, holy cow, this is crazy. But yeah, Bobby's been great. Bobby's been He's awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He's absolutely awesome. And I'm so happy that he was then able to connect me with you to help me with my build.
Yeah.
Now, this is the car that I've actually seen in person.
Yeah, I think this is a few years ago. I know he's done several hot rods with coupes and stuff. This is a 5 window. Uh, it was pretty traditional, pretty classic Bobby Alloway right there. Big, big, big and little, big rake, of
Yep.
course black, and then the long stringy flames, which you know a lot of his cars have.
So tell me now, how does the process work? Like, did he? I mean, especially somebody like Bobby, and even like Boyd. Do they tell you exactly what they want? Do they give you some ideas, or they kind of said, what do you think? Give me a drawing back about this car.
A lot of times, sometimes it's mixed. Now Bobby, he knows pretty much what he wants. He's got his flavor, and it's usually it's a lot of times it's black
Yeah.
and very aggressive stance, very big back tires and small front tires. But he usually has a pretty good idea of what he wants, and he'll tell me. And but other there are some projects where he'll be like, I don't know what to do with this, and he'll let me go and run some ideas by him, and he
Hmm.
finds that works out really well too because he's really open minded. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a hit and miss. Sometimes he knows exactly what he wants, and sometimes he'll let me run with it a little bit.
Bobby's done so many cars, and even someone like Boyd, where they know the hot rods, they know the cars, they know the classics. So working with them gets a little bit more easier than working with somebody like me, who's got absolutely no idea what I want
Yeah,
and what kind of features would look nice. And I think for me, that's what I've appreciated the most in being able to just be myself with you and say, I have no idea. What do you think? And you've really held my hand. So I guess for anybody out there who's starting a project, this is one of those investments that it has to happen. Better now than halfway through the project, you realize this doesn't look good.
well, I mean, I've always made the comparison to building you would never build a house without some type of plan. You wouldn't just start laying brick willy nilly. Like you got some idea in your head maybe, and some people can do that. I know some people have a good vision, they can do it, but
Yeah,
a lot of people, they need to see it. They need to see what it's going to be, and yeah, you just need a plan, and then you
yeah,
work towards that plan. You don't have to. The drawing is a good start. It's somewhere to aspire to. Like this is my end goal, but it doesn't mean it has to be a locked in blueprint. You might find something in the middle of the build, like it might be cool to do this, and you try it and it works, but the rendering gets you. I'd like to say a good way there towards your goal. Yeah, this one.
I had to share this. This is just magnificent, honestly, and I think this gives everybody an idea as well on the amount of detail involved
Yeah.
when it comes to the renderings.
Sorry. Yeah, this was the Maverick done for Jesse Greening Auto. It was built for Jimmy Shaw, and he this guy wanted a no holds barred 200-mile-an-hour Ford Maverick. I mean, and I love this project because, like I said before, I love the whole dare to be different thing. So to invest whatever was invested into this little Ford Maverick, I mean, kudos to him. To for
It looks magnificent. I mean, the carbon fiber details at the front and on the sides.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
the goal
definitely
is just to make it just a badass street racer car. That goes 200 miles an hour, and he did. I think he actually ran at 200 miles an hour.
Oh, I bet he did.
He took out to that strip where they do that flat out run. I forget where it's at, but yeah, he hit 200 miles an hour with it, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, Ford
And
Maverick.
how long would it take, talking with someone and discussing their plans? And how long does a project take, Eric?
It's hard to say. I mean, a lot of people ask me that, and it's so hard to do because because just to do a rendering, if you know exactly what you want, and I just sit down and do a rendering, God, I can have it done in a day, right? But you work through ideas, and then maybe you change your mind a little bit, and we go back and we revisit things, and then then we think we know what we want, and then we get an idea, and then we do work some more. And so sometimes it takes a little while to just work through it and get to a final. Like this one here, I mean, it was several months of working through ideas and wheels and stuff like that to where we could say, okay, these are the final renderings. You know,
Hmm. And when it comes to the renderings, do you give advice on the type of wheels? Like, is it pictures, or is there a lot of words going back and forth with yourself and the customer as well on, okay, this type of wheels would be best suited, or you should.
yeah, that goes back to, some people know exactly what they want, some people don't. So somebody might ask me, hey, I got this car and I already have these wheels, right? So that's done. Some people have no idea, and so I'll show them, like, here, these wheels might look good on it, and I'll show them
Mhm.
and maybe do like 3 versions with some different wheels and see where that goes. And then they can at least see and start to, okay, they might look good, or maybe they want to see something different, but that's the starting point.
That's a starting point.
Yeah.
Now, building a car, a truck, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money involved.
And it
Do
keeps,
you think that with your renderings, that can help people when it comes to budgeting and seeing how much the final project is going to cost?
yeah, I think so. I mean, I work with a lot of shops, and that's one of the reasons they'll have me do a rendering, because we'll do the renderings, and then they'll present the renderings and then a budget or a build cost approximation to a client. So they'll use the renderings. They'll say, this is your build approximate costs. This is what the car will be. Blah blah blah. There you go. So yeah,
Okay.
although I think everybody knows it doesn't. Everybody knows it's going to be more, but
Yes.
you know,
Well, it gives them a kind of a ballpark figure, a very big ballpark figure on what can actually involve. Now, I sent you pictures of my 72 in its original form.
yeah,
And, people out there, you might recognize it, the 1972, or in all its original form. Let's bring this up here, the
yeah.
long bed.
What a beaut.
And we've had many discussions about the long.
Yeah, yeah,
And one of the first pictures, Eric, that you sent back to me, and I'm like a kid in a candy store, especially when it comes to that. When I see something for the first time, I'm like, this is awesome, this is amazing. Let's go with this. So let me show everybody what was the first image that Eric showed me when it came to my project.
yeah. And yours is, since you didn't know really what you wanted, we had to start with just some line drawing stuff. We didn't want to get too, doing fancy renderings yet. We just wanted to do some basic drawings of just lines and just see what we liked or didn't like.
So this was it without even any color, and I
Yeah,
remember thinking to myself, wow, I want it to be gray.
yeah,
But this was super cool because when I first saw this, it really gave me an idea of what the 72 can look like, the
yeah,
direction we can take.
yeah. It gives you your first glimpse, right? It's your first glimpse into a possibility.
And then, of course, now as I'm showing these pictures to everybody, I would love your opinions. Comment as well on what you all think, because we went through a few different changes.
Yeah, yeah. We went through a lot of different stuff. I remember, one of your prerequisites was you really wanted a custom grill. And that was a big part. It had to have a custom. The whole front end had to be custom looking, and so custom grill, custom lower splitter. Yeah.
And the other thing that I appreciated is the spoiler in the back,
Hmm.
because I like the look of it, that to have that mean look.
Yeah.
And it was great for you and I to talk and discuss this, because you mentioned to me that it's giving it a very racing style. Will you be racing this truck? And I
Right.
was like, no, that's not what I'll be doing.
Yeah, because if you look, I mean, these early versions, we had a lot of skirting on the side with that side exhaust, and almost coming into almost a rear diffuser in that rear pan. which is very race car influenced, or pro touring influenced, I guess, you want to say pro touring.
Mhm.
And then the wing, obviously. So yeah, we were definitely going down a path here of, this very aggressive race truck, and I think maybe in some of our later stuff, I think we started evolving away from that a little bit, and it's more of a street cruiser.
Yes, we did. Because if we hadn't, then I would have ended up with a racing truck. And then I would have seen myself out there on the track, because if I've got it, then how could I not race it? So
Yep.
I remember we had to pull the brakes on that and say, no, I'm thinking more of something street cruiser where we can drive it down and just get everybody to notice it. Um,
And this is a good example right here of why you do the drawings, right? Because if you would have gone down this path and started building some of that stuff, and then realized later on that you didn't want to go down that path, then you've already had a lot of money invested in fabricating, and it's like, no, we got to change it. So
and that's exactly what would have happened.
yeah,
Honestly, it really would have.
and so it's perfect for someone like you, where you really weren't sure where we were going with this truck, to go down these different paths and figure it out in a drawing.
And we still haven't figured it out.
No, yeah, we're not 100% there for sure, but I think we're on a good path. But we've
Yes.
definitely moved away from the race truck. We knew we wanted to go away from the race truck thing. So
Yes. And the other thing, coming back to the details, one of the original drawings that you had done for me of the bed, I mentioned to you, and I'm a very difficult person when it comes to trying to verbalize what is going on in my mind. So you were able to grab that, and I said, I want the beds to be something going this way, and it took you, I think it was a few days to a week. And you said, take a look at this. What about this? And I loved it. And I love the fact that you were able to continue on that pattern onto the hood.
yeah, that's one thing that I'm kind of big on, is just keeping consistency through the design. If you're going to start some design element, let this be consistent with what we do in the whole vehicle. So it's not just a separate element that was, hey, that's would be a cool idea, let's do it.
Exactly.
Not
And
making
and
it the whole car, or truck.
you started this off, and putting it in and making, have consistency throughout it, and it's kind of become a dance, because then I'm thinking, well, why don't we continue something into the headliner as well?
Yeah.
And it gave me an idea, and it made me realize that there needs to be consistency around the truck, so it doesn't look like a clown vehicle. This looks good, let's put it all together. But this has been just, yeah, it's been very helpful.
But there's also that balance too, where you want consistency with some of the shapes and stuff, but you don't want to go overboard. Like, not every element of the truck has to have the same thing, right?
Yes,
There's consistency, but let's not go overboard. So there's a balance, and we'll figure it out. We'll find it.
we will. Hopefully we will.
Yeah,
Hopefully we will.
we will, no doubt. But yeah, that was your idea. You approached me and you said that you wanted to do something different with the bed, and doing the, like angled bed floor. I've never heard that idea. I thought, okay, that sounds pretty wild. And so
I'm always drawn to the beds
yeah.
whenever I check out a truck at the shows. I'm always like, hey, let's see what's going on in the bed. I just think it's such a big part of the truck. It's
Mhm.
bigger than the hood. The wheels, they make a stance all on their own.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a truck, such a big portion of that is the bed.
Yeah.
And people always go to it. Every time I've been at a show, someone's always stuck their head inside the bed when walking past the truck.
Yeah, and some people do really interesting things back there, because it's an opportunity to do something interesting and cool.
Well, we came across some interesting things. We were at the Triple Crown, and we noticed a really neat pattern that was happening on the wood panels of the bed. And we were, how did they get that done? And it was through electrical current.
Yeah, that was wild. That was really wild.
It was very wild. Electrical current is one way I mean, it's for me, I just think it's dangerous. Unless you really know exactly what you're doing, don't mess around with
Yeah,
putting water and electricity together to get a pattern.
yeah. Don't try this at home unless you know what you're doing.
But you can see the extent, and people would agree as well, that people go to in order to make their truck stand out.
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
make it look different, from the ones next to it. And one of the questions I always get is about the long bed factor,
Hmm.
because everybody loves the short beds.
Yeah, and that's where, I think we talked early on, and it's what's hard about doing a C10 is because that's probably the most popular truck to customize or to build. It would be that 67 to 72 C10, that style. So yeah, to make it stand out from all the ones that have already been done and the ones that are being done, yeah, what do you do different to make it stand out? And yours being already a long bed, I know we talked a lot about, did you just leave it a long bed and make it a and just embrace it? And
The long beds have always appealed to me.
mhm,
And this is going to answer a lot of the questions that people have asked. Why am I keeping it as a long bed? Um, I like the longer vehicles.
yeah,
I like the 57 Chevy Bel Air because it was one of the longer of the three. I like the Cadillacs. I like so when it comes to the long bed, it speaks to me that I want this car to go on. I mean, I like trucks, I like semis because they go on forever. So that's what the whole appeal is. And for a car to come down the road and you just keep it, to see it go on forever,
yeah,
it appeals to me. And I think it's going to stand out because there are so many C10s. We were at the C10 Truck Nationals. I was there recently, and so many short beds, not many long beds.
yeah. Well,
So
I bet you're going to get a lot of comments. No,
I
don't
will
long bed. But I mean, I sometimes
already.
sometimes you got to be brave, I guess, and go against the grain. That's my attitude, um, and it's not unheard of that you can't build a wonderful long. I mean, I've seen them. I've done renderings for people who've actually won awards with 67 through long beds, and yeah, just embrace it.
Well, I don't care about winning if I get an award or not, but if I can have a truck be at the end of it and say, you know what, this is exactly what I wanted,
That's all
you
that
know,
matters.
because if I have a short bed, I've got a frame for the short bed, and my friend's got a frame, so we can definitely do that. We can chop the bed, but it's not out of the realm.
Yeah,
But in order to do that, then it's the whole all my life I would have wondered why didn't I keep this as the long bed that it was.
yeah. Well, like
So
I've been telling
I
you,
can do that. I drive myself nuts.
there's no doubt it will look good as a short bed because that's what everybody likes. That does look good. A short bed C10 obviously looks good.
Yeah.
So it comes down to personal choice a little bit. I think it'll look good either way, and you got a hard choice to make.
I have a very hard choice to make. Now, you do coming back to the renderings, we've seen pictures of all the exteriors of the cars, but you do the interiors as well.
Yeah,
What about the engine compartments? Because we know nowadays people are getting, they want to get out of the box when it comes to the engines, and they dress up as well. Do you do all that?
I do. I've done yeah, many, and it gets harder because a lot of these engines. These modern engines, with the LS, all these modern engines, they're not very attractive.
Hmm.
So, it takes a lot of work to make them be attractive, whether it be, covering stuff or making new pieces or new valve covers and relocating coil packs and stuff like that, and then making it look like it belongs in an old car or an old truck can be challenging. Um, we try not to, it's popular to do a lot of covers some time back. Now, I think we're getting away from that a little bit, and to where we have the capability now of making parts. We can do a new intake or new valve covers and make a modern engine look appropriate in an old truck and not, you know, to look
So
like
it
we
stays.
just pulled it out of a new car and stuck it in there. Because they're
Yeah.
they're not very, they got a lot of wiring and coil packs, and the intake on top is usually not a very good looking piece. So yeah, it takes a lot of work.
And you have to know your engines in order to be able to dress them
Yeah,
appropriately.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes, yeah, it's tough. It just depends on the vehicle, what the style is. If it's real
Hmm.
it's real modern looking, maybe we can go down that modern route and make it look maybe there's a cover on the top and new valve covers if it's real vintage looking. Uh,
Yes.
I mean, you've seen a lot of people disguising modern engines and making them look like old engines, which is
Yes,
amazing.
I've seen that a few bit now this year, especially with the LSs. They've made it look like 350 blocks.
Yeah, and the guy I was riding around with that Triple Crown, Joe Horace, he had a '61 Pontiac, and it had an LS engine in it. But if you open up the hood, it looked exactly like the original Pontiac motor it was in it. I mean, it was amazing. So yeah, it's pretty amazing what they can do now.
Each to their own taste,
Yes,
honestly.
that's right.
Each to their own taste. And one of the other things that I wondered is because you work with so many shops, and these shops like the Greenings Auto Company, Jesse and their team, they do great work. But you do renderings for them, and you do renderings for so many other people. And now me as a YouTuber doing a rendering with me, which my truck is now going to be going to all the different shows.
Yeah.
Where does the creativity come in trying to come up with something new and different each and every time?
Well, that's tough. I mean, that's really tough because what I think might be cool and different, the owner may not. It takes some bravery. It takes some
But
bravery.
you can't produce the same work either because, a shop could come to you and say, "Hey, Eric, you did this. It looks great, but you did the same thing 2 years ago for so and so."
And that's where I try very, very hard not to ever do that. Um, and that's the most difficult
You know
part.
how particular these car folk are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And everybody follows everything. So yeah, you don't do that. Um, so yeah, that's the most difficult part is keeping it fresh. And
Keeping it
you got to
fresh.
push yourself a little bit and you got to push people a little bit. And you're like, look,
Yeah,
I know it's safe to do this because it's popular, but let's go this route,
and do something
break the green a
different.
little bit and try to uh, be different. 'Cause that's the whole point of doing the custom cars, right? I mean, you're trying to set yourself apart and you're trying to be a little different.
That's it.
So yeah.
That's it. And on that note, let's share one of the. I'm not going to say final, just because I'm a very difficult person,
Well,
so I'm
for you,
not
it's
going to.
not final. Yours may not be final until the truck rolls out of the paint booth.
Exactly. But for everybody sitting at home, this is the direction that we are taking now, the truck. So let's have a look back. So this here, everybody, is where the direction is going for my truck with Eric's help.
Yes. So as you can see, if you can see from the earlier versions, we've removed a lot of the cladding or we're calling ground effects on the bottom. There's no diffuser, no, wings on the tailgate. Um, but we have done a lot of work on the tailgate, uh, moving the bottom of the tailgate up so that molding that runs along the rocker or that lower body line can wrap around the back. The taillights are completely custom and go across the tailgate. The Rana's radar is stamped into the tailgate, which is something you asked for very early on, which is going to make
Yep.
the back of the truck. I think that's going to be cool. And then we've got, the exhaust comes out the back now on a really clean roll pan. And
And that's one of the words that I said. I remember when I was talking to you is I want it to be sleek,
mhm.
long, just one color, and every time I look at these final renderings, it's like, yep, this is exactly the direction. It's early on, I was very excited, like, wow, this looks cool, oh wow, look at the spoiler, this looks cool too. But now when the more we see it, you've given me your cough through the computer, Eric.
Oh gosh, no,
And now when we look at it, it's like, okay. And the other thing that we've discussed is the top for the bed,
yeah,
the covers. And the reason I wanted to really investigate that is because back in Sydney, the utes, we call them utes,
yeah,
not pickup trucks, they all had tops.
okay,
And it's a different look. I don't know exactly how I feel about it. I like it. I don't mind it. But then again, I always like seeing the wood as well in the back.
yeah. You're kind of hiding that cool idea you had for the angled wood planks in the bed. I mean, I know you could open the thing up at a show or whatever, but you are kind of hiding that cool feature by doing that.
I am.
But cool though. It will be
It
sleek.
does look cool.
Yeah, it'll be sleek.
It'll be sleek. So there it is, everybody. The direction that we're going to be going, and who knows when it'll be finished. Hopefully, a year if I'm lucky. Most likely more than that. But we haven't talked about interiors yet, so the rendering hasn't started. But Eric, it's been so cool. It's been really cool working with you and having you hold my hand. I think more than the body shop people, you're going to be holding my hand more, because they're going to do what we want them to do. But in order for that to happen, I have to know first.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll get there. I mean, and then just to point out though, the image on your screen, that's back to that's for the original long bed. That's still a long bed version there. And then, but you can see what,
Oh, it is the long bed version.
yeah, I did not shorten that one. I just did the back where you just so you could see it. But this one, this is still the long bed with a cover. But that is, I think we feel pretty good about what we got going on the front end and the style. So that is your basic direction there. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what tomorrow brings. What ideas you
We'll
get
see what
tomorrow.
tomorrow brings. The next phone call Eric gets from me. Hey, Eric, I've got an idea.
I told you earlier on. I said I hope I can keep up with your creativity because you got wild ideas. That's for sure. I love it.
Crazy ideas.
I love it. I really
But
do.
it's good. It's good because you're able to tame that. You're able to tame that and put it into a direction that's going to be put to good use and come out with a nice looking truck at the end. But no, this is cool. Super cool for everybody out there. And I know your workload is huge. And even taking me on was a favor of a favor. but but how can people get in contact with you?
I'd say the best way is just go to my Facebook or Instagram page. Just look up Eric Brockmeyer Design on Facebook or Instagram. Um, yeah, look at my work on there. Keep up with what I'm doing on there. Obviously, you can message me on there. That'd be the best way.
That'll be the best way. I'll share those links in the video description
Okay.
as well here. But Eric, it's been a lot of fun. I appreciate this.
You bet, Rana. I appreciate you doing this. This is great. It's been fun.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right, Rana. Take care.
You too.
Bye bye.